Greetings, one and all, and welcome to episode number 35 of Thoughts and Hunches, Making Money in Bunches and Sucker Punches. Your boy Stony is back for the 35th time, Season 2, Episode 2. I'd like to welcome my fellow degenerates, fienders, hustlers, lowlifes, scumbags, hoodlums, scoundrels, all of you guys. It's great to have everybody back. Week 1 last week wasn't the world's greatest. We went 7-8 in the NCAA. Not a great way to start, but the first couple weeks are always kind of a feeling out process. We did hit the one NFL game on Monday night with Dallas getting the cover against New England. New England, see? Still think Tom Brady plays for New England. Make that Dallas getting the cover against Tampa Bay. Anyway, 8-8 on the week. No big deal, right? Lost a bunch of juice, and we bounced back stronger with week 2 of NCAA football and week 1 of NFL. So we got a lot of plays. Before I get to those plays, and I'm going to run through them pretty quick this time because there's a litany of plays this week. A couple news stories. Last week, first week of NCAA football, Alabama cruises. What else is new? They might be better this year than they were last year. This defense is legit. Nick Saban is Nick Saban. They're going to be a national powerhouse as long as he decides to stay in Tuscaloosa, period. FCS schools winning, right? A couple FCS schools went into FBS schools and won games, right? These are smaller schools that get paid tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to these schools, and they left with wins. Case in point, Vanderbilt losing to East Tennessee State, Montana beating Washington. Those are just two examples of shit just going haywire. UCLA, LSU. Nobody really knows what to make of it. Oh my God. LSU lost. An SEC school lost to a Pac-12 school, right? Chip Kelly was supposed to be on the hot seat for UCLA, but instead they blew out LSU. Well, if you listen to my podcast, I would have told you UCLA was the easy pick. It was damn near a lock. LSU's very overrated. They're 5-6 since they won their national championship, right? Which seems like eons ago, even though it was a year and a half ago with Joe Burrow. But the Chinese bandits of LSU are a laughingstock. They're a joke. And anybody who backs them is also a joke. And finally, obviously, the Tampa Bay Dallas game last night. It was last night. Dallas got the cover. New England won. When Brady got the ball with a minute and a half left, was anybody surprised that he went down and got the win? No, nobody was. Anyway, those are your top stories. And don't listen to all these other top stories about Cam Newton and everybody shocked that he got cut. No, nobody's shocked. Nobody's shocked. He deserved to get cut. Mac Jones is the man. Cam is not the man. Period. Anyway. Let's move on. Here we go. College football, week 2. Starting 11 a.m. Saturday. Illinois versus Virginia in Charlottesville. Scott Stadium. Virginia comes in as 10.5-point shock. They got a 43-0 win last week over William & Mary. Their defense looks great, but they played William & Mary. You got to remember that. Illinois, on the other hand, is riding the roller coaster. They beat Nebraska, then the public overreacted and the odds makers overreacted, so they came back last week and lost to UTSA. So now this 10.5-point number is way too much. It's going to be a much closer game. I'm not saying Illinois is going to win, but Illinois will get the cover. I say Virginia wins by 7. So take Illinois plus the 10.5. Game 2. Oklahoma State versus Tulsa in Stillwater, right? Interstate matchup. Always an interesting matchup, although Oklahoma State has kind of dominated the series. Tulsa's coming off a loss to UC Davis last week. That qualifies as an ouch. All they do is run the ball. They can't throw. They won't throw. They'll try to throw, but they can't. A win over Missouri State last week for Oklahoma State doesn't exactly inspire any confidence, but it's 13-point shock. They're going to have to throw. They're going to have to score a lot in order to get the cover. Quarterback Shane Illingworth is starting to come into his zone, and I see Okie State with the 38-16 W. So take OK State and lay the number. Game number 3 in Columbus, the Big Horseshoe. Ohio State laying 13 against Oregon. 2 ranked teams. 3rd ranked Ohio State. 12th ranked Oregon. 12 p.m. start. Early game. By the way, though, that first game I told you, the Illinois-Virginia game, that's an 11 a.m. start. So that's 8 a.m. for those of you Pac-12 West Coast folks. Anyway, Ohio State minus 13 against Oregon, number 3 versus number 12. Oregon got a win against Fresno last week, 31-24, but they were outgained in the air, 298 to 172. They couldn't throw the ball. They only threw the ball for 172 yards against a Fresno defense, which really, frankly, isn't very good. Ohio State, on the other hand, got a push, 45-31. The 45 points isn't surprising that they put up against Minnesota, but the fact that they allowed 31 points was kind of a surprise. In this game, C.J. Stroud to Chris Olave, just say it over and over and over. That's going to be the hookup, and it's going to happen early. It's going to happen often. OSU wins by 20. Game number 4, Pitt at Knoxville. At Tennessee, in Knoxville. Tennessee last week beat Bowling Green 38-6, and Pitt is coming off a win 51-7 over UMass. Neither one of those games means anything because they were Cupcake City. This is a classic overreaction because Tennessee scored 38 points. Pitt should be a 7 or 8 point favorite. Tennessee's overrated. Joe Milton, the quarterback transfer from Michigan, isn't very good. We all know that. He didn't even play very well against Bowling Green, right? But they will run the ball with Tyon Evans. He's a good back, and he should at least, keep the game kind of sort of close for Tennessee for a little while. But senior quarterback Kenny Pickett for Pitt, this kid, he's really turning into something. And let's not forget that Pitt dominates when they run the ball, and they dominate on defense. And it's going to be a low-scoring affair. And Pitt wins 27-17 and gets a pretty easy cover against, I don't want to say an overrated Tennessee team, but let's call them an overrated Tennessee team for the time being. Next up, Notre Dame versus Toledo in South Bend, and under the watchful eye of Touchdown Jesus. 2:30 p.m. start, the classic 2:30 start on NBC. Toledo coming off a 49-10 win over Norfolk State. They run the ball a lot. Dequan Finn is a good back, but he's pretty much all they've got. Toledo really doesn't score very much, but 49 points against Norfolk State doesn't really do much. Notre Dame, on the other hand, is coming off of a blown cover. They did get the win, 41-38 in Tallahassee against Florida State, which is, pretty impressive, I guess, if you want to count Florida State as a pretty good team, but they're not. Sorry, Sean, but they're not. Quarterback Jack Cohn is this kid. I think he's got it. I think he's the answer for Brian Kelly up at Notre Dame. 366 yards, 4 touchdowns against Florida State in the win. This one's going to get ugly early. Keep in mind, Notre Dame's ranked 9th in the nation, and although they offensively they turned out well and didn't play well defensively against Florida State, they're going to rectify all of that this week, tomorrow, with a dominant performance. I've got Notre Dame 41-16 in an easy cover. Next up, we head to Denver. Yeah, I said Denver, not Boulder. For some reason, Colorado is not playing at home in Boulder. They'll be in Denver, and they're hosting fifth-ranked Texas A&M, who comes in as 17-point shock. This is a 3:30 p.m. start. Colorado beat Northern Colorado last week, 35-7, but they had 12 penalties for 118 yards. They're 1-13 versus top 5 opponents in their last 14 games. A&M is coming off a 41-10 thrashing of Kent State. Yes, Colorado is a step up in competition, but not all that much. A&M runs the hell out of the ball. They did have 2 running backs go for over 100 yards. Devin Ashane and Isaiah Spiller, 124 and 113 yards respectively. They've won 9 straight. That's the second longest winning streak in the nation, behind only Alabama. A&M with an easy cover, 37-13 in Denver. Another 3:30 start, Cal versus TCU in Fort Worth, Texas. Amon Carter Stadium. This one, forget about it. TCU's coming in off a 45-3 win, 45-3 win over Duquesne, while Cal lost 22-17 to Nevada. Yeah, Nevada. And TCU has a much better defense. There's no offense in this game. It's all defense. TCU wins 24-13. Take the under 47. That's the total. We're going to say under 47 in Cal TCU. Excuse me. Next up, Iowa versus Iowa State. This is a biggie. 3:30 p.m. start in Ames, Iowa. They call it the Cy-Hawk series, the Cyclones and the Hawkeyes. Number 9 versus number 10 is the first time the two teams have met while ranked in over 30 years. Iowa coming off a 34-6 pounding of Indiana. They did have 2 pick sixes, though, which kind of inflated that total. They've won 5 straight in the series, but I think this spread is kind of an overreaction, right? Because of how well Iowa played. It should be closer to a 10-point spread. Iowa State is a lot of people's picks to possibly even unseat Oklahoma at the top of the Big 12 this year, which is why they came in number 9. And it's an overreaction of both sides. Iowa State did not play well in their season opener. They won 16-10 over Northern Iowa, in which they struggled. But running back Breece Hall, quarterback Brock Purdy, they've got the weapons. This is a very, very dangerous team, and I think Iowa State wins easily than most people think. Lay the 6.5. Iowa State wins by 14. 3:30 p.m. Air Force versus Navy in Annapolis. This one's easy. Anytime 2 service academies are playing each other, bet the under. Period. Total's 40. Air Force wins 20-10. It's another under. Period. Next up, Miami versus Appalachian State down at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. This is a 7 p.m. start. Miami's laying 8.5. They're coming off a 44-13 loss to Alabama, where Alabama just cruised, and midway through the first quarter, the game was pretty much over, and Miami really didn't have a prayer. App State, on the other hand, got a win over East Carolina, 33-19, but they're going to have trouble against Miami's front four. Miami's defense is loaded. Derek King, their quarterback, didn't play well against Alabama, but to be honest, what quarterbacks do play well against Alabama? Expect a big game from Derek King. Maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing. App State's a good team, don't get me wrong. Quarterback Chase Bryce can move the ball and move the team, but he's gonna have his hands full. And Miami wins this one 37-20. A pretty easy win, laying 8.5. So take the Canes. Next up, 7 p.m. in Fayetteville, we got the border war, Texas versus Arkansas. 15th ranked Texas comes in after a 38-18 impressive win in Steve Sarkisian's first game as head coach over Louisiana Lafayette, who was ranked at the time, and Texas went in and beat them up pretty good. Bijan Robinson, right? He's the key, or Bijan Robinson. He's the guy that makes Texas's offense cook. Last week, he had 103 yards rushing, 74 yards receiving. He can do it all. He's a big back. He's brutal. He's physical. And Texas is going to roll. Arkansas got a win last week, 38-17 over Rice. But they were losing 17-7 in the third quarter before they scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to win it. But Texas wins this one easy, 31-20. Take Texas, lay the 4.5. Next up, we're in Chapel Hill, North Carolina versus Georgia State. Georgia State is coming off a 43-10 loss to Army. They only amounted 177 yards of total offense, and today they're up against an angry Mac Brown-led Tar Heel squad who lost to Virginia Tech last week at 17-10. Very sloppy showing. Quarterback Sam Powell had 7 interceptions in his first 2 years as the North Carolina quarterback. He had 3 last week. That's not going to happen again. Mac Brown's going to run up the score, and Carolina's going to win this game by 30 easily. So lay the points. Next up, we head to Lexington for SEC matchups. Saturdays in the South. Family, faith, and football. That's what they do in the South. UK, Kentucky, hosting Missouri. Another border war. 5.5-point favorites are Kentucky. This is going to be a good one, allegedly. Missouri's coming off a win over Central Michigan, 34-24, where they moved the ball pretty well, but it was Central Michigan, and their defense didn't look very good against Central Michigan, and now they're going to have to face a pretty good Kentucky team. This Kentucky team is underrated, and they're going to win a lot of games this year. They're going to win 8, possibly 9 games, and, watch out. Quarterback transfer, the Penn State transfer, Will Levis. This kid has that something special, and he's going to lead this Kentucky team. They won last week over Louisiana Monroe, Ulamo, 45-10. Running back Tyler Beatty, he's just a workhorse, does everything. Kentucky wins easily over a Missouri team that isn't bad, but isn't very good either. And Kentucky's better than most people think. Lay the 5.5. Kentucky wins by 16. 8 p.m. Eastern Time in Ann Arbor, Michigan hosting Washington. Michigan 1.5-point favorites. Michigan beat Western Michigan 47-14 last week. So what? A creamy cupcake to start the season. Washington did the same thing with an FCS school and wound up losing to Montana 13-7 at home. Doesn't get any worse than that. So this is a classic overreaction, right? Washington would be a 5-point favorite if they didn't lose last week to Montana. They're a much better team than they showed last week. Quarterback Dylan Morris threw 3 picks for Washington. That's not going to happen against Michigan. Michigan's defense is pretty good, and this game's actually going to turn out to be a pretty good one. But Michigan's favored by 1.5. I like Washington on the money line. Take them straight up. 27-23. Huskies win. 10:15 p.m. in Provo, Utah, we have another installment of the Holy War. BYU versus Utah. This is a classic matchup. BYU comes in as 7.5-point dogs to the 21st ranked Utes. Utah has won, 9 straight in the series? Yeah, they've won 9 straight in the series. Baylor transfer quarterback, right? Charlie Brewer is very good, right? Put up good numbers last week in their 40-17 drubbing of Weber State, 19 of 26, 233 yards and 2 touchdowns. Utah wins over an overmatched BYU team that doesn't have the defense, and Zach Wilson has gone to the NFL. So Utah wins and covers the 7.5. 10:30 p.m. tomorrow night, Stanford versus USC at the LA Mausoleum. 14th ranked USC comes in a 17.5-point chalk, and winners last week 30-7 over San Jose State. But you gotta kind of suspend belief there for a minute, because it was 13-7 USC in the fourth quarter. before SC, got some turnovers and put their foot on the pedal late to get that win and cover. Stanford, on the other hand, lost and looked horrible in doing so to Kansas State, 24-7. They only amassed 39 yards rushing. That's not a David Shaw football team. I don't know what the hell I was watching last week. I'm going to see them next week when they're going to be playing down the street here at Vanderbilt. But they're going to have their work cut out. They're going to lose this game, but they're 17.5-point chalk, so I'm going to take them all. And USC wins. USC wins by a touchdown, 31-24. And Stanford gets the cover because this is another overreacting line at 17.5, where it should only be more like 10 or 9. And finally, the last game on the college football season, or the college football schedule for Saturday, the Degenerate Special, Donnie O's favorite. This is what he lives for, right? He'll bypass 75 college football games, and then he'll fire away on the Degenerate Special. Why? Because it's called the Degenerate Special, and Donnie O is a true degenerate. 11 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night, Oregon State versus Hawaii in Corvallis. Oregon State's 11.5-point chalk. Even though they lost last week to Purdue, 31-20. Hawaii's gone up and down. They were blown out by UCLA in their opener, and they came back and hung 49 points on Portland State last week. Yeah, it's Portland State, I know. And they allowed 35 points to Portland State. But Oregon State just always has trouble getting out of their own way. Can they beat anybody by 2 touchdowns? I don't think so. I'm taking Hawaii plus the points. Oregon State wins by a touchdown. Take Hawaii in the Degenerate Special, which lost for us last week, so we're 0-1 in the Degenerate Special. But we'll bounce back. Hawaii will get us the cover to make us 1-1. There's your 17 college football plays for Saturday. And now we move on, going rapid fire, NFL style. We're 1-0 in the NFL. Hey, we hit Dallas over Tampa Bay. So here we go, NFL Sunday, week 1. Let me explain real quick. Reverse turf home underdogs. These are home underdogs who play on a different surface than the road team. So, for instance, if a team plays on grass and they're at home, and the road team coming in, usually at their home, plays on turf, and they're favorites, you take the reverse turf home dog. It's documented 63% in its lifetime. It's gone down. It used to be 67%. But these days, the lines kind of get blurred between what's AstroTurf and what's grass and what's not, because of all this synthetic turf and stuff like this, and this synthetic grass, and who knows what the hell's grass and who knows what the hell's turf anymore. But for the most part, there are a couple of those. So in week 1, we're just going to monitor them. Going forward, we'll start taking them as we see fit. But the 4 reverse turf home dogs that we found: Cincinnati +3 against Minnesota, Indianapolis +3 against Seattle, Detroit +7.5 against San Francisco, and New Orleans +3 against Green Bay. Those are your 4 reverse turf home dogs. We'll see how they do this week. As far as the picks go, we'll start out Philadelphia +3.5 at Atlanta. Money line, take the money line. Philly should be favored in this game. Atlanta's not a good team. Philly's going to win, and Philly's going to actually win this game pretty easily. So take the 3.5. Game 2, Buffalo versus Pitt. This has the earmarks of a great one. Buffalo's a very good team. Some are calling them the best team in the AFC. Some are calling them the best team in the NFL. Josh Allen is a true NFL MVP candidate. And everybody's down on Pitt, right? But everybody forgets that the Steelers started the season 11-0 last year. Take the 6.5. Pitt +6.5 at Buffalo. The public's all over Buffalo. We fade the public here. Pitt +6.5. Game 3, Washington and San Diego. The Washington Reds, the football team, whatever they want to be called, this team. The Washington football team -1 against San Diego. Again, the San Diego. The Washington Redskins versus the San Diego Chargers are not playing. It's the Washington football team against the Los Angeles Chargers. Just can't keep up. And we ain't making this shit up. This is how it is. Take Washington. Lay the 1 on the road in LA. Washington's defense dominates. Game 4, Carolina versus the Jets. We're going to take Carolina's 4-point favorites at home. This is the Sam Darnold revenge game against the team that dumped him. Take Carolina and Darnold and a healthy Christian McCaffrey to go off. Next up, San Francisco at Detroit. The 49ers come in as 7.5-point favorites at Detroit. I know it's a reverse turf home dog, but Detroit has a new coach. When they got a shitty philosophy, they don't have a good team. They downgraded in quarterback. This one could get ugly. 49ers could win this by 30. So take the 49ers, lay the 7.5. Next up, Arizona. It travels over here to Nashville to play Tennessee. And the Titans are 3-point favorite. And a lot of people are, Tennessee's a trendy pick. Tennessee and Indy are the picks to win the AFC South. And Tennessee has made some noise in the last couple of years in the AFC playoffs. King Henry's back. They got Julio Jones to complement A.J. Brown. How good is Ryan Tannehill? All that being said, we're going to take Arizona. We're going to take the 3 in an upset where Kyler Murray and company get things going, and Arizona wins outright as 3-point dogs in Nashville. Miami versus New England. The storyline, oh my God, it's Mac Jones versus Tua. And turn on any ESPN program and just hear all these hot takes about everybody talking about it and hyping it up. Gives a shit. It's just another game with 2 teams that are both fringe playoff teams. Neither team's a guaranteed playoff team. New England's got a good defense. Miami's got a good defense. 2 young quarterbacks. Neither one has accomplished anything. They're both going to run the ball. This game's going under. The total's 42. Bet the under. And nobody gives a shit who wins. Green Bay at New Orleans. There's another reverse turf home dog. But we're going to bet against it. We're going to take Green Bay. We're going to lay the 3 and watch Green Bay just absolutely cruise past New Orleans. Not sold on New Orleans. They're going to take a big step down. This is game 1 of the second straight Aaron Rodgers last season in Green Bay. He's on a mission. I've never been an Aaron Rodgers fan. I've never made a secret of it. And I'm still not an Aaron Rodgers fan, but I will be tomorrow when I take Green Bay and lay the 3 against New Orleans. Rams versus Chicago. Rams laying 7.5. This one's going to get ugly. Rams are going to cruise. The Bears got nothing. Andy Dalton starting. He's going to have one bad game against that front 4 of the Rams and their very talented secondary. And after game 1, they're going to be clamoring for 2 things. 1, Matt Nagy's job, and 2, Justin Fields to start in Chicago. Chicago's a good team, but they're overmatched tomorrow. Sunday, Rams cruise. That's the Sunday night game, by the way. And then finally, the Monday night game, Baltimore goes into Las Vegas, so ESPN can put the Raider Death Star on full blast for a national television audience with the packed house in there, wearing masks and vaccinations, by the way, because it's Las Vegas. And Baltimore comes in as 4.5-point favorites, but they're banged up. They're losing people left and right. They have no running game right now. Their top rusher is clearly Lamar Jackson, and he can't win the game by himself, even though the Raiders, it's going to be a rough season for the Raiders. I'm predicting 6-11 or 7-10 because of the extra game this year. I still can't wrap my head around that. But the Raiders could win this game. It's very possible, right? I like their offense. I like what John Gruden does with Derek Carr, and it could be interesting. But even if they don't win, if it comes down to the end and the game's decided by a field goal, Raiders are getting 4. There's your cover right there. So there's 10 NFL games. There's 17 college football games. That's 27 plays that I just delivered to you. Free of charge, right? I'm not charging you, period. All this is free. All this is great. And let's go out and let's make some money, period, this week. 16 wins is the least amount that we'll take. A 16-11 week wouldn't be so bad, but a 19-8 week would be really good. So that's what we're shooting for. So as we sign off for the week, let's not forget the mottos. Number 1, in order to win big, you got to bet big. Number 2, for me, the action is the juice. And third, there's money on the streets that can't be ignored. Don't forget that. And finally, good luck to you.